how can we be optimistic? What's here? And the way that I thought of this was, gosh, now I get to have a new chance to do something different.
Now let's focus like a laser on the number one secret from going from fears of bankruptcy to igniting opportunity. So what's the number one secret?
It comes back to that positivity, right? If we all have a choice, how are we going to respond to things? It's our choice. And so a trait that I have learned over the years is looking for how can we be optimistic? What's here? And the way that I thought of this was, gosh, now I get to have a new chance to do something different. And what is it that I want to do? What are my strengths? So getting back to what you just asked, what are my strengths? What do I love? And what is my passion, right? So what are these components? And that's how I came up with Feel the Fire.
Excellent. So basically responding and choosing that you do, A, realizing you do have a choice, and B, it is your choice. And if it's going to be up to you. But part of that's the mindset of saying, how we're going to respond to things. We respond in a positive way. Let's look for the silver lining. Let's also clarify what our strengths are and what we're passionate about doing. Is that a fair summary?
That is definitely perfect.
Great. That's number one. What's number two? Go.
Then you go and you decide, what is it that I want to do? Right? And you work backwards. So this is a huge component of what I teach all my clients. And this is what helped me launch 2 businesses during the pandemic, is having what we use in Feel the Fire, something called the Summit Goal Mapping Framework. And that's huge. If you know where you're going and you have the action steps broken down into smaller components of how you're going to get there, your chances of success are exponentially stronger.
I love that. The Summit Goal Mapping Framework. That's really cool. What is that? What is it that I want to do? Starting with the end in mind, working your way backwards into smaller goals. Just do a little side note before we go to secret number 3. But what is the Summit Goal Mapping Framework? Give us a little bit more there.
Yeah. So this can be used for anything. So if it's financial goals, this is a show about investing. It's financial goals. If it's with your career, if it's with your family goals or entrepreneurship, it's all the same. But what you want to start with is think of a mountain, right? You look at the top. This is how I thought of this. My husband and I were out hiking and we got to this mountain that looked like a 90-degree angle that went on forever, like up to the stars. And I thought, how are we going to do this? And in my head, I thought, okay, if I can just get to point A and then get to point B and C, and therefore it's going to feel a lot easier and not as overwhelming, right? So instead of concentrating on how am I going to get to this giant summit goal that I'm excited about, let's look at where we're shooting for, which is the summit goal, your stretchy, exciting objective that you want to have. And then you chunk it down into 90-day, what we call approach goals, right? Because you're approaching your summit. So you can do it either by quarters or 90 days. And those are those action steps that you have to do, or those big ideas that you have to complete to get to your big goal. And then underneath each approach goal are your action steps. What are the things that you're going to do to get there? It's that simple.
Mm-hmm. Excellent. Love it. So it's starting with the end in mind, looking at what that summit is, and then breaking it down into smaller chunks, and talk about the practice of what it looks like to see that and look at that, talk about that, visualize that. How does that come into play for people to actually, maybe that's secret number 3, maybe it is, but how does that come into play to achieving your goals?
Yeah, well, I think that's a perfect secret number 3. And so with big goals, often we aren't sure how we're going to get there, right? We're thinking, oh, it'd be so great to own a house. I heard one of your interviews where you're like, yeah, we bought a property in Italy and we go back and forth there. Or that might have been one of your guests. But either way, that was a big, stretchy goal, right? To buy a home in another country where there are risks there. So you have to be able to believe it before it can come true. If it's that stretchy, if you think of, when we put a man on the moon, we didn't know how we were going to do that. Kennedy had no idea at that point, but he set that intention, and then NASA came about and they figured out how to do it. So it's the same idea. So what you want to do is Think of what you want. What's that big goal? And then practice every single day visualizing it coming to truth, coming to reality. There's a few ways you can do that. In the morning and at nighttime before you go to bed are the best times to do it because of your brain waves, where your beta brain waves are. You absorb it better, you believe it more, you're more susceptible to what you input there. So in the morning, I always get up and I visualize for 20 minutes. And I see what I want. And then I also visualize, how am I going to do this? And I do it consistently every single day. Nighttime, I do something similar. And over time, you'll start to see that when it comes to making big decisions, you start making them subconsciously to get you to that big goal.
I love it. I love it. I love it. So the visualization and the practice of that in the morning, 20 minutes, in the night, 20 minutes, visualize not only what do you want, but number two, how you're going to get there. I also started this saying too, the fear doesn't go away until you kind of commit and burn the ship. And so you take the action, right? Like the fear of the unknown or the uncertainty or the challenge it's not going to subside until you take the action. And when you take the action and you commit, then you start to actually, see things, maybe start to move. Then that confidence builds. And when that confidence builds, that fear starts to diminish.